reconcile, the verse that talks about anything that you do. Now, this is to everyone. Probably I'd start with Eric, and then Aseka. Eric, and then actually I'll start with Aseka, and then Eric can. Do I start with violence?
Start with Eric.
I start with Eric.
Start with Eric.
So the verse that talks about do not do anything that will cause your brothers and to stumble, in the sense of now alcohol. So if you're saying that it's okay and then you have somebody who struggles with it, so should I still continue and take the Brenda approach of, see, it's their thing, it's not really my thing. I shouldn't be responsible for them having to, whatever they're struggling with, or should I just stop and take the quote-unquote Christian approach of being Christian is?
Yeah, I know. It's a
Let him cook.
It's a tricky situation. I feel I think it will reach a point. I'll continue drinking, but not in their presence. If it's a matter of if I am, what do they call it? There's a word that most people like calling it, stumbling block. No, there's a word that people like using, temptation. I don't know if I'm a temptation to your walk in life. With walk with God.
You're a stumbling block.
Yeah, I think it's stumbling block. If I'm a stumbling block to your walk with the Lord, I'll remove myself from that kind of situation.
So you'll stop being friends with them?
I would be mindful of it's kind of like how you can be mindful of people's beliefs, and it's how people might be. It's how people are mindful of how you can be mindful of people's beliefs and everything. It's more of a respect for you. If I'm a stumbling block, just tell me. I'll stop it while in your presence, so that no temptation might come upon you. But
does it have to come from them?
Huh?
Does it have to come from them?
Yes, I absolutely because
then how do you explain being one another's keeper? Because sometimes you're too weak even to ask. You need somebody else who's going to do it even not for you.
I think at that point,
some people are too weak, or maybe they're not strong enough to ask you.
Good question.
Actually, majority of the people are not strong enough to ask.
At that point, am I really a good friend if you can't tell me about it? That's it.
Maybe it's not that they can't tell you. I feel like they're also being mindful of you. They don't want to impose their whatever they're going through on you.
No, that's guy. I feel like that. Then that's a problem on their connection, their friendship. Because if something is bothering you, and you can't tell me about it, then we are not each other's safe space. So at that point, it becomes a matter of, okay, leave the alcohol aside. Then why do you think you speaking your opinion will be something that will cause imposition and causing a fallout, rather than just speaking about it and being sure that I will listen to you? So I wholly believe if they can't say, which is weird, which will be weird, but if they cannot say, I believe either I will notice and then bring up a conversation about it, and then they'll say, or again, the Holy Spirit can tell me about it. So I think that's where I would reach. So yeah, I think it's removing myself from that stumbling block.
Brenda has something to say before Aseka.
Yeah. I am called to be my brothers and sisters' keeper, right? It would be oblivious of me to say that I don't know the effects of alcohol. I don't know that Central Kenya and a place like Nakuru County are one of the places in the country that are heavily affected with illicit drugs and illicit alcohol. And having worked in the GBV sector, I have seen firsthand the effects of alcohol and drugs and all that. And as someone who used to partake in alcohol for the wrong reasons back then, it's difficult for me now to go to my circle of friends and tell them that you need to quit alcohol, or you need to reduce your intake, or this ABCD in the essence of me being a good Christian, And I think it's Eric who I'm not sure if it's Eric or who. This verse that says, if your left eye causes you to sin,
Pluck it out.
Pluck it out. If your left hand causes you to sin, cut it out. So if my friends are the ones who are leading me to indulge for the wrong reasons, then I feel like I am called to self, to just distance myself from them, to work on myself first until I'm in a position to confidently have that conversation with them without being swayed back into the life that I'm trying to get, to ignore, right? So what was your question? I feel like I'm answering his question.
I think you've answered the question, because now you are tackling the part about what Bato had asked you earlier, based on, is it like your role as a Christian to really care about other people?
It is, but then I feel like it also needs to come from a point of self-awareness, right? Because I don't think Bato would confidently go to this Paxis, the what do you call it? Sin City. Like the street with the alcohol, with the whatever.
Koloho.
Yeah, Koloho.
Oh, so they're talking about where we are is at the river. So
at the
there's
river.
a street where...
Or Langata, where 1824 is. Or Westlands, where, there's so many places. Or tortillas.
You guys are like a map of...
USA, we were in USA together.
Guys in USA, even guys not in USA,
Me and Aseka, we know where the churches are.
That's good. And we bless God for you.
Ask me where the temple of hope is.
Smart, hit me. Don't. Anyway. Yeah. So I feel like it would come from a point of self-awareness. So for me, for instance, I wouldn't confidently go to that place and tell people and do evangelism. Those are the people I used to drink with. First of all, they'd be like, "No, you come have a booty first, and then tell us what you want to tell us. We'll listen to you, but just drink first." And
Lord Jesus Christ.
So do you think? I think the question that I've not gotten like an answer to is in relation to the verse about whatever you do, like you should not do something that causes your brethren to stumble. So, like, based on that, what are your thoughts on that? Should you stop? Should you continue? It's their problem.
No, I think we should. And I'll give an example with my friend.
I think we should what?
Stop or continue?
We should stop causing people to...
So what is that? Define that stop causing.
Yes.
Is it stop drinking in front of them?
Stop drinking
or stop
at
drinking
all?
completely?
Stop drinking in front of them.
What if you're really close? That's a question I'm asking.
Then stop drinking in front of them. Because like Eric said, if we are friends and we understand the relationship and how intense our friendship or whatever the relationship
what if it's like your
is.
spouse where you can't hide you drinking?
Can I give
That's what I did say. If it's like it's my wife, I'm like, okay, I'll stop drinking.
Can I give a story cue?
It's not that deep.
In 1980s, I can't remember which year specifically.
You don't throw dates like that on this podcast.
I know, it was 19. I think I was 30. So, okay, I'm kidding.
Oh, wow. I was actually going to be like, wow.
Yeah, in 1980s, I can't remember the year, but I remember reading this story.
Ah, you could read.
This wife, okay, I read that story very recently. Very recently, I read a story about.
Your back is still working.
But the people who are born in the 80s, are they 40 this decade?
40 is good. 40 is being polite. 40s.
Yeah.
Wow.
40s and
What happened to us millennials? Am I sitting with Gen Zs only? Okay, Q high.
No. I'm not a millennial. I'm not a Gen Z, sorry.
Thank you for the encouragement.
You're what?
In 1980s, I read about this story.
Okay.
There was this guy who came from a very this lady who came from a very conservative family. You know, conservatives, they would not indulge. They would have a pattern of living and a system of living and a way of living. And then she got married to this Jama who was coming from a very liberal family where they could explore. And they were both Christians. They went to church. They were fully dedicated to God. And constantly when they went to parties or gatherings, the husband, because he was the one who was liberal, he used to tell the wife, you know what, take a glass of wine, no worries, just a glass of wine. So the thing is, this wife, because of her background, she said no constantly. Now, you see, the more you get familiar with someone, the more you can even play around with your words, right? So you'll be like, a glass of wine is going to make you to stumble. Just even a small glass of wine is going to make you to stumble. So because of that, one day in a party, the wife was like, by the way, it's been more than 10 years. My husband has been telling me just take a glass. So she decided to take a glass. 2 years later, they buried her because she had come into rehab and out of rehab and into rehab. Yeah, you saw that reaction? You saw that reaction? Yeah, that was I'm looking for.
Brenda, she loved it, Brenda.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Because
I
when
love
she
it.
took it, she could not get that taste. She started taking that wine. Slowly by slowly, she started taking even more stronger, more percentage of alcohol in drinks. The husband tried his best. They went rehab after rehab. It only took 2 years before they put her to the ground because she could not stop. Hundreds of thousands of dollars because of trying to get to rehab. The husband was so guilt-stricken that he's the one in his own way, in fact, even using scripture, telling him, is a glass of wine going to make you not to stumble? The husband was so stricken, I think he went through depression for so long. I don't know even who. So that story went through Christian circles because the shift was the lady too weak or was the husband too pushy? Because the thing is, when you look at it in both perspectives, the husband, in his own way, he was able to drink without. The wife was not able to. But the husband, pushing the wife to the edge and how tragic it ended, it begs the question, what is the problem? Is the problem the wife? Is the problem the husband? Was the problem the alcohol in itself? So when you talk about not causing your brethren to stumble, you do know that has to have very clear lines. This is what I'm going to do to not make my brethren not to stumble. Because this is the thing, and I feel this deeply, the gospel and the way of the Christian is very offensive. It ought to be offensive. If the way you're living as a Christian is not an offensive way, and an offensive in this way, offensive to the world.
Yeah.
Probably the way you're living as a Christian is not full, because even Jesus in himself offended many people by the way he did his things. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We should be able to have some definite answers, like yeses and nos to some things. What would I say? I'd say if this is going to cause my brethren not to stumble, I'm not going to have ifs. If he's stumbling, that's his problem. Or maybe if he's weak, or maybe if he doesn't want to hang around me, no. We should have definites and say, this is, I will not drink, I will not indulge in this, I will not, because of my brethren. Let me finish by saying this, Q. The Bible tells us constantly, so I'm dropping these verses, I'm sorry, next time when I come, I hope you invite me next time. When I
Yes,
come,
of course.
I'll have the definite scriptures. This is what the Bible says. It says, to anyone who comes to Christ with freedoms should be able to lose them. But if anyone comes to Christ with bondages, should be able to be free. So the one who comes free should be able to limit his freedom. And the one who comes bondage should be able to come and find freedom. What Christ is saying is, we should be able, what Paul actually is saying is, we should be able to lose those things we feel, even though they will not take us to hell, but we should be able to lose them to save our brothers. If your nephew, your niece was running to the road, and there was a trailer coming, you would go and grab them. Even if it hurts them, you don't care because you're grabbing them from something that is potentially harmul.
Yeah.
Hata kama
So
atasikia
alcohol is the
uchungu.
trailer. Yeah.
I was going to say, but
What I'm saying
my
is, if they're going to be like this, you grab them. Even if it hurts them,
Yeah.
you grab them off because you're in a bid to save their lives.
Yeah.
So I feel we should not have sometimes shifting goalposts, because if we are not even able to say some yeses and no straight,
and I was
this
going to
conversation is
say,
going
you
to be
guys were
hard.
looking at stumbling block as something very overt that someone tells me, hey, you're causing me to stumble.
Yeah.
But half the time it's not people. You don't even know the influence you
You're
have
causing
on
them to
other
stumble.
people.
And
So
sometimes
someone
they-
sees you, Brenda, on the pulpit, and then someone sees you in a club. You're automatically giving them license
Doing
to drink.
evangelism.
You're automatically giving them license to drink without you having a conversation with
I
them
saw
or
your
them
story
telling
this
you
week.
Your
that
action
you're causing
speaks
me.
louder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not overt. People don't come to you and tell you, you're making me stumble. And that's, I think, what Asaka is saying is you're supposed to, like, because I don't know whether, like, I don't know which part, like how much me drinking will have an impact on people. I just choose to stay away from it.
So now you see, that's why I have a problem with what you're saying in relation to, I don't understand your stance. Because now, let me ask the question again.
Okay.
Should a Christian work in a place where it's the alcoholic industry?
And my point again will be, what's the motive of you working in there? The reason I'm not saying Christians should not.
Because you see,
This is the reason I'm saying Christians should not. I can't say that is because I don't think we should leave some places for the devil to learn.
so
I
okay,
think
let me
there's
ask.
a place
I
for
think I
like,
think I understand what Q is saying.
Yeah.
Maybe let me paint it. Because motive is different, and then who sets the motive? Let's say we've agreed the motive is you want to do evangelism, but the bigger arc, what is it promoting? You get the
Because if
alcoholic
somebody
industry is
shows up,
promoting alcohol,
if
right?
somebody shows up and sees you there, as you're saying, what you're telling Brenda, if they see you and then they see you in church preaching and
Yeah.
they struggle with that,
They struggle with that.
There's the difference between. So we've had this conversation with Pastor James before, and he always keeps talking about Koloho, and he's like, "Oh, I would love to do evangelism in Koloho, but the reason I can't is because if someone sees me there, then their relationship with the church is completely done." So he doesn't have a space for evangelism at Koloho, but someone like Eric was saying earlier, someone who's been into that lifestyle, and for example, a bartender gets saved. Would I tell them stop being a bartender now? No.
But now you see, that's where I
That's
think
their space for
we're
evangelism.
disagreeing. Because let me ask, do you think somebody, like, should a Christian work in a strip club?
No.
Yeah.
Why not?
Whoa,
It's a dark
okay,
space.
whoa, okay.
It's true. It's
Can
the
you ask
same
the question now slower? Articulate every word very slowly.
Because it's the same, like a similar question.
Again, shifting goalposts. Don't do this, do that. Don't do
Yeah.
this, do that. Yeah.
I feel like stripping like it's a like there's
Don't say
no
it's a different
lines
scene.
about whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of,
That's wrong.
That's just sin.
but the question you said, or rather the statement you said, is that Christians should not leave dark places, the places with darkness, to just go like that. That's the sort of the foundation you give into somebody working, a Christian working in as a bartender or something of the sort. So I'm like, if somebody is a bodyguard at a strip club, is that okay? Because that's one of the things that you give.
no. Just say no.
Just say.
It will support your argument.
Actually,
Yeah. If you say yes, you will
I need
contradict
to
your-
process that a bit more. Actually,
Yeah.
because I don't think they're the same thing.
I think fundamentally
I think they are
they
the same.
I think in the sense that like that is there's no black and white in like what happens in a strip club. That's just sin. But for example, like, as someone could be drinking but they're not necessarily sinning.
But if somebody, okay, let's say some people are seated at the bar and you know that this person is not married to this person, would you still serve them?
But
Yeah.
they're drinking.
I don't know if you get what he's saying. This is going to be again shifting.
Yes, that's
It's very
my
shifting
that's my
because
point.
when
I
let's
genuinely
say
don't
the
think
next
it's the same
question
thing.
shifts and then comes to, would you be what's it called? Would you work in a brothel?
Yeah, you get, because I feel like you're shifting your.
No,
No, I
goalposts.
don't think you guys understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
A
Sorry?
brothel that's just sin.
What is
But I'm
it? What is
saying drinking isn't automatically sinning.
Yes. So
Yes.
now the question was not just on the drinking; it was on the environment.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
So that's why he's asking: would you work in that
So,
environment?
for example, a person working in a strip club, it's very difficult for you to say, like, you could work in a bar and not drink.
You can work in a strip
You
club
can
and
not
not be a
strip.
strip.
You can be a bouncer.
No, but like then the lust that goes on in that space, you can't tell me you're going to be watching all of those shows. I don't know how
There's
many
no
Self-control.
lust in drinking. There are people who, the
I'm
more you
talking
drink,
about-
the more
We're
beautiful
talking
they
about
get.
stripping.
In a strip
right?
club,
I'm talking
you're
about
seeing
the strip
things
club.
you shouldn't be
Yeah.
seeing.
But now you
Like
see,
you don't sin just by there's
but
so much.
this is the problem I'm having
It's
with
the
what you had said,
indulgence,
because
yeah.
you said that Christians should not like leave certain spaces to darkness. You
Yes.
get that's a statement
Yeah.
that you said, and I'm like, is stripping? There's that last element. So you're like, you're going there to evangelize.
In a strip club, in a brothel. Yeah.
So
Yes,
what's
Pato.
your stance?
I
Based
don't
on
know
that
that it's that.
I think you need to
Black
process
and
that a
white.
bit
Yeah,
more.
I don't know that it's that
Because
black
that's what
and
I
white.
feel like you're shifting your goalposts. Sometimes you're agreeing with the Seka. and then
I've
you're
always been agreeing with the
Brenda.
Seka, but my point is like there's some places where like, and I'm saying it's the same argument people use for politics, where you're saying, minister of God should not enter politics because politics is just like there's so much corruption going in there, and I keep saying there has to be someone bringing in light in those specific places. Now, when you equate that to like, for example, a strip club, I don't know that the same nuances work.
So nobody should go and bring light to a strip club.
I don't know that those nuances
The
work.
light should
That's my
only
point.
be brought in alcohol.
What?
I think let's ask another question, which is, for example, I know this doesn't happen in our culture, but again, in 1 Corinthians 8, Paul says there's food that is offered to idols, but a Christian can eat that food. But if an unbeliever sees you eating that food, they might stumble because they say you're eating food. Okay, I know that doesn't occur in our context, but Paul brings up something that is very controversial,
Yeah.
but it is not a sin. You get? So I think that's the same thing Bato is saying with alcohol, that this thing, the Bible points that when you drink, you will get drunk, and drunkenness leads to debauchery. And that's what the Bible is very specific about. And I think now that's where Bato is trying to find that common ground
Exactly.
where you can. But again, you
But
see...
I'm saying I don't know that the nuances work when you paint it like,
Yeah.
should Christians work in the porn industry? I'm like, I don't. That's a completely different.
But we're not even
different
saying that you
perspective.
need to be directly involved. We're talking about indirect working there, as like you put it.
That's why, again, Kimi had say some of these things need yes or no answers.
Yeah.
Some
'Cause
of these
that's what I
things
also
need
believe.
yes or no
It
answers.
should be yes or
Yeah.
no. Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be, yeah.
Depends.
Some of these
What's
things
the
need
motive?
direct yes, direct
No,
no.
problem with life is just it's just not black and white.
Yeah.
But I
But as
think-
Christians, I think we can
Because
have
I always
yes,
think
no.
that the space, the gray, is where grace operates. There's
I don't think-
there's spaces where like it's not automatic.
I've
You
really-
can't tell every Christian. Like no, like I don't know.
Okay, this is. I've really been trying not to give what I think. I've been asking questions, but this is what I believe. I don't believe gray areas operate. This is why.
You don't believe what? Sorry.
Gray areas. Like there are gray areas in Christianity, and this is why. If God gives me a conviction about something, because God is truth, whatever He says becomes truth.
Yeah.
So when I ask Bato, what do you think about this? And then Bato tells me this, I'll be like, all right, that's what God has revealed to you. So I'm just like, okay, is it a yes or a no? You're like, a no. The thing that I'm looking at now in relation to should Christians work or operate in the alcoholic industry, my answer would be no. The reason why is I have a different understanding. I had music. I have a different understanding to somebody who's a baby Christian compared to how I've grown as a Christian. So somebody who get saved, I'm not saying even based on time, but usually most of the time it's because of time you get to grow. Because as you're learning, you're reading the Bible, you're encountering God, you get to grow. But I'm saying somebody who's just gotten saved last week will be excited about all these things and say all these things, but as you grow, you gain wisdom and maturity. So you're able to know, like, yeah, this is permissible, but it's not beneficial. So you choose to say no, because you know where it will lead to. And at the same time, I believe that what you're saying, like God will give you a motive for something, but not just to anyone. those are very specific cases. We're talking about like, is it Hosea or Ezekiel? Hosea, who was told go and there was a reason for that.
Well, that's like 1 in
Exactly.
100,000.
So we can't use that as the foundation. Because
I
you see,
agree.
whenever we are talking about humans, you ask how many hands does a human have? You'd like 2, right? But there are people with 3. So we won't say now humans have 3, 4, 5 hands. We'll use this as the metric. So coming to what we're thinking about as Christianity, we go to what is the foundation of everything, and then we don't look at the special cases as much. We learn from them, but we don't use them now as the standard. Because you see, if you take that as like thinking like that, then we should all be crucified. You get, like on a physical cross, because that's what we should aim at. And it's possible. We can all go to Afghanistan or Somalia and start talking about Jesus, and there's a possibility that that will happen. But probably God has not called you to that. There are people who God has called to that, but it's not every single person. So that's why I was trying to get what you think and get a definite answer.
That's exactly what my point was. I was saying I cannot say that Christians should not, because there's people who the Lord has called specifically to those places.
Yeah. And we
'Cause
agree, it's not everyone, it's
and there is
just a handful.
My perspective comes from, there's a minister, he's very popular on YouTube, and he's a pastor during the day and a bartender at night. And he's been doing it for so many years. And his church is full of the people who he's been pastoring at the club. And they have a strict no drinking policy in their church because they've come from that lifestyle. So when I think of ministers, I'm like, yes, there's a place for that kind of ministry. And people have really condemned. In the beginning, he's talking about it when he started, people really condemned him, especially when he started a church, because he felt like he was called to ministry, but no church would accept the fact that he was doing that. When you see his impact and you hear the testimonies and the things that he's done, there's a place for ministers like that.
So
and not everyone might agree. And I agree with you, Q. The exceptions are not the rule.
Exactly. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
If your point is based off this is exception, and maybe a scroll came from heaven and it hit you on the face in the middle of the night. And I think if it's exception and it is tested by the Bible and tested by the Spirit of God, and God actually allows you to go there, yes. Also, but guided by people who actually hear the Lord, not just something you had, I would say yes. But if it's not doctrine.
Yeah, and I said in the beginning, it's not you sending yourself.
Yeah.
It's the Lord has sent you to those spaces. That's where you go.
All right. Eric, you're still here. You've disappeared.
No,
Have you changed your mind?
No.
Okay.
No. Me, I'm like, I feel at that point. Oh, it's on. I feel like at that point, there's a lot of assumption that people make. They think that they're stronger. They think that they're better. They think that they'll be able to thrive. They'll think that they're the chosen one, that they'll be able to do it. Assumption is where people go wrong. I agree with when you say it's if God calls you, like literally ask God. Like don't just take yourself, because that's needy. But if you consult with God about me, I'm of the school of camp. Like I don't assume anything. If it's a question, I ask God, can I get tattoos? It will be a stumbling block. Should I continue drinking? It will be a stumbling block. Should I stop drugs? Should it be a stumbling block? Like this doctrine,